Happy spring afternoon. Today is April 3rd, 2021, and Eddie and I are at the Seven Pillars Park, whatever this place is, in Peru, Indiana. So follow along for our adventure.
I'm author Gwenelise Clayton, and today the Rivervine community is taking a field trip to Miami County. I had received an invitation to a Facebook event this coming Friday, April 9th, in Peru, Indiana. The event is going to be held at 65 North Broadway at 6 p.m. and is titled "A Bit of a Party!" And will include, quote, several local businesses showing off their products, a book signing with some local authors, another exclamation point. There's also going to be wine, no exclamation point, but there should have been, massage, art, and a bunch of other cool stuff. Most of all, a couple of my author friends will be there signing books. I wasn't sure if I'll be able to make it, so I thought my husband and I could just do our own thing instead on the Saturday before. Maybe scout out Miami County for fun stuff to do. To prepare for our recon mission, we hopped on YouTube and searched Peru, Indiana. The first few results were about the Seven Pillars Nature Preserve, which is way cool. In fact, spoiler alert, it's probably the coolest place in Indiana. It's this natural cave system that has yet to be exploited. And I just thought it was so cool and so mysteriously rad. While I was putting on my makeup and doing my hair, Eddie watched another YouTube video about the, quote, haunted, unquote, Okie Pinokie Forrest, 2 R's. Some amateur ghost hunters had uploaded a video with all these urban legends that piqued Eddie's interest, so we had to investigate for ourselves. Our day started at DeRozier's bakery for a couple donuts and cups of coffee while we chatted a bit with owner Joe DeRozier, who is my friend on Facebook and the one hosting the April 9th event. It's always nice to meet in person. It turns out Joe's an Army veteran, which means he and Eddie spent the next hour and a half comparing duty assignments in mess halls. While we were there, Joe just happened to have copies of the latest book by our mutual friend, Liz Flaherty, titled Window Over the Sink. And she's going to be one of the authors at the April 9th event. So she'll be signing her books then, but this one is ready to go. Already signed. So I got it, Liz. And he also had copies of his book, which is along the same lines. And his is called, Heck, I Don't Know, I Just Make Donuts. Both of these books are collections of short stories. Liz's is from her time that she spent writing for the Peru Tribune, and Joe's is all about being a dusty old baker. They both sound fun, and I'm looking forward to reading them. Our next stop was Dillinger's restaurant, but they were closed. Their Google page said they opened at 11 a.m., but there was no sign of life at 1:30 p.m. when we got there. So we headed to an Irish pub, cat a corner from there, called Smitty McMusselman's. They were closed too. But there were 2 women in the parking lot also looking for a place to eat. So we asked them for advice, and they suggested a Mexican restaurant called Los Tres, and proceeded to give us directions how to get there. Now, of course, being a Westerner, my first thought was, The three what? When we got to the restaurant, we noticed the full name was Los Tres Caminos. So my question was answered. The three roads. Got it. The women ate their lunch a couple tables socially distanced from ours, although we could still hear each other's conversations and we were maintaining eye contact with each other. Eddie and I finished eating first, and as we got up to leave, Eddie interrupted their lunch and asked if they knew anything about the Okie Pinokie Forrest being haunted. The blonde woman wrinkled her nose, rolled her eyes, and harumphed. It's literally just a patch of trees in the middle of a field. When Eddie pressed her for information about ghost stories or hauntings or murders or anything, she shook her head and chuckled. I've lived here my whole life. The Okie Pinokie is just a place where teenagers go to drink. Despite her skepticism, Eddie and I were not about to be deterred. However, our first stop was the Seven Pillars. Oh my God, that place is so cool. Being disabled, of course, I had difficulty traversing the walking trail, but the cliffs were still pretty amazing to look at. And the trees in the park had actual signs of spring, so that was cool. Seven Pillars is a set of cliffs that lie along the Mississiniwa River, hope I pronounced that right, 4 miles southeast of the city proper. These rounded buttresses were formed by water and wind, carving alcoves into the limestone on the north bluff of the river. The formation is considered sacred to the Miami people. The tribe owns the land on the south bank of the river directly across from the Seven Pillars. This is where they conduct their sacred longhouse ceremonies and host their annual Miami Heritage Days celebration. We will definitely be checking that out sometime, I guarantee you. When we finished Seven Pillars, we headed to the Okie Pinokie. According to the YouTube video, this place was called, quote, the Devil's Parking Lot.
Hey, we're in the Okie Pinokie Forest in what is called the Devil's Parking Lot, and there's all kinds of local folklore about this place, so we'll fill you in on it shortly.
Unquote. And several murders had taken place there. One in particular was of a 7-year-old girl who had been tied to a tree and tortured. Legends say, if you pay close attention, you can still hear her cry for help and see the rope marks on the trees where she was bound. I cannot confirm or deny the story, and I really hope it's not true because I just totally made fun of it. But I can tell you, I heard no such sounds and found no evidence of any tree that had rope marks. We did find a bunch of graffiti with spray paint, and there were some trees with knife marks that it looked like somebody had cut into the bark with a knife, but nothing that resembled rope burns at all. And Eddie, of course, had fun playing mountain goat. He loved climbing all of the little hills, and oh my God, he's such a boy. The coolest thing I thought was what I called the Jesus tree. It's a honey locust that has a whole spiral of thorns. Pretty cool considering we went the day before Easter. When we left Okie Pinokie, we passed by the graveyard for Francis Godfrey, who was the last war chief of the Miami Nation, as well as the owner of Mount Pleasant Trading Post. Burials in that cemetery are restricted to persons of Native American ancestry and their families. By this time, we were starving, so we headed back into town where we found Dillinger's to be open. The place is named after the famous Hoosier bank robber John Dillinger and has a whole gangster theme. They even had Social Distortion's Machine Gun Blues in the jukebox. Eddie and I each had a rum and Coke, and we split the special of the day. a very tasty order of peach teriyaki chicken wings served with ranch dressing. So good. So good. Very friendly staff, great atmosphere. I highly recommend it. And it reasonably priced. It was great. But the jukebox doesn't take credit cards, so make sure you bring cash and don't forget to play Social D. So we had a great time in Peru, Indiana. We want to go back though to do some more research on the history and follow up on the urban legends. The town is called Circus City, so we definitely want to dive into that aspect of Peru's heritage. I'm not a big circus fan, but if it's going to be called Circus City, there's got to be a good story behind that, and I want to find out more. Thank you so much for joining me this week on the Rivervine YouTube channel. I'm Gwenelise Clayton, author of the Rivervine trilogy. I invite you to read my books, Fermata Sellers and Zinfandel's Grimoire. Both books are fiction novels available for sale on Amazon.com, and they will explain more about what Rivervine is and who the Comadis are. So pay attention to that word. If you'd like to support me on Patreon, you can find me on patreon.com/Rivervine. I will see you next Tuesday at 6 p.m. Thank you so much.